President Xi emphasized that it is important for us to ensure food safety. And at any moment, we should never slacken our efforts and should keep an unrelenting focus on the food safety. Premier Li Keqiang has signaled the same important message today. We'll focus on the food supply during the COVID-19 response. We have with us DG Wei Baigang from the Development and Planning Department of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, DG Pan Wenbo from the Plantation Management Department of the Ministry of Agriculture, DG Qin Yuyun from the Food Reserve Department of the National Food and Strategic Reserve Administration, DG Wang Hong from the Safe Storage Department of National Food and Strategic Reserve Administration. They will take questions from the media. First, some updates on the epidemic. In the 24 hours of April the 3rd, provinces, municipalities, cities, Xinjiang Production and Construction Corp have reported new confirmed cases 19, including 18 imported cases, 1 domestic case, which was from Hubei. New deaths 4, all were Hubei cases. New suspected cases 11, all were imported cases. On the day, newly cured and discharged from hospitals 180, those of medical observation 2,346. Severe cases were reduced by 48. Some words on the imported cases remaining. Including 17 severe cases, remaining suspected imported cases 114. Cumulatively confirmed cases 888. Cumulatively cured and discharged from hospitals 190. No death cases. As of 24 o'clock, April the 3rd, according to reports from provinces, cities, Xinjiang Production and Construction Corp, remaining confirmed cases 1,562, including 331 severe cases, cumulatively cured and discharged from hospitals 76,751, cumulative deaths 3,326, cumulatively reported confirmed cases 81,639. Remaining suspected cases 114. Cumulatively traced close contacts 712,088. Those who remain under medical observation as close contacts 18,286. In Hubei province, new confirmed case on the day 1. Newly cured and discharged from hospitals 150. New deaths for all these were Wuhan cases. Remaining confirmed cases in the province 834, including 830 in Wuhan. Severe cases 303, including 300 cases in Wuhan. Cumulatively cured and discharged from hospitals 3,762, including 46,611 in Wuhan. Cumulative deaths 3,207 in the province, including 2,567 in Wuhan. Cumulatively confirmed cases 67,803, including 50,008 cases in Wuhan. No new suspected cases, no remaining suspected cases. According to the reports from provinces, cities, and Xinjiang Production Construction Corp, new asymptomatic cases 64, including 26 imported cases. On the day, 3 were transferred to the group of confirmed cases, including 2 from imported cases. 58 were off medical observation, including 6 among the imported cases. Asymptomatic cases that are still under medical observation 1,030, including 239 imported cases from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Cumulatively reported confirmed cases 1,236. Including 845 in the Hong Kong SAR, 343 in the Macau SAR, and 348 in the Taiwan region. On April the 3rd, domestic cases have been reduced to below 900. No new suspected cases. And in Hubei province, apart from Wuhan, for 3 consecutive days, there was no new confirmed cases. However, the pandemic is still ballooning in the world. We are under great pressure of fending against imported cases. National life and work is resumed. We need to keep alert and guard against the further transmission. Now we'd like to take questions. Please identify yourself before you address your question around today's topic. Journalist from the second row on the left side, please. Thank you. With Xinmin Evening News impacted by COVID-19, many countries have started restricting the export of grain or wheat, including Kazakhstan and other countries. And there were people around us who were holding the prices or stockpiling. What might be the impact? I'd like to ask DG Wei Baigang to take the question. Thank you for your question. As you've rightly pointed out, as the pandemic spreads across the world, some countries started the restriction of grain export, leading to the price surge. Many are concerned about the necessity of stockpiling grain. I'd like to share with you 4 sets of data to remove the worries and anxiety. First, data. The first set of data on grain production. For 5 consecutive years, our production was kept above 1.3 trillion tons. Last year, we had a historical height. For wheat, there has been oversupply, and the rice, again, oversupply. So we are absolute safe in terms of food safety. Second, per capita possession of food. Since 2010, per capita possession of grain has been above the world average. Last year, it was 427 kilograms, much higher than the world average. And the third set of data is on the food and grain reserve. The consumption to reserve ratio was much higher than the 17 to 18% safety threshold as defined by FAO. In particular, the grain and wheat reserve amounts to an annual consumption. Fourth, importation. The annual importation for last year was 1,700 tons. That was only 2% of the total consumption of grain. We imported high-quality wheat, Thailand rice, and the major purpose of such importation was to make some structural changes so as to satisfy the individualized and personalized needs of the general public in general. We have a sufficient and abundant supply even during the previous days when the COVID-19 was rampaging over China. The rice and the grain and the wheat price was kept stable. People didn't have to and don't have to worry about the grain. There is no need for stockpiling. It is always better to consume fresh.
Let's continue. On the right, on the front row, the first lady reporter, please. Thank you. With CCTV, my question is, affected by the pandemic, now in some countries have issued the export ban. And also with the desert locust disaster, we can find that globally there's some pressure for food supply. How about the situation in China? We will have Mr. Pan to take your question. Food has always been the top priority for the people. China has a 1.4 billion population. Everyone needs to have meals every day. food security is the top priority, permanent. The CPC Central Committee and the State Council have made every efforts to ensure the food security, and also we rely on our own capacity to ensure food security. Just as DG Wei talked about the production of food, and for 5 years in a row, we have ensured the adequate production of food. Many years of food harvest have become the solid basis for economic growth. Also, they have provided a strong support for the effective pandemic response. This year, in the context of the overall economic development, the country has adopted a series of measures, some of which are even unprecedented, to ensure food security. One of them is that in the context of a pandemic response, the central government worked out policy guidance to instruct the localities to ensure the adequate spring plowing to stabilize the food supply and production. Secondly, before the spring plowing approved by the State Council, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs has provided the targets to the localities for food production, ensuring the yearly adequate supply of food. This is also unprecedented. And thirdly, in a crucial timing when the farmers are selecting the seeds and preparing for the spring plowing, the central government released a strong policy signal to encourage food production. As you can see, the government provides subsidies for grain production, and the overall financial subsidy has remained stable. The government has also increased the minimum procurement price for several major grains. While the country is suffering from the pandemic and also financially strained, these policy measures are really not easy, and they have already contributed to the adequate supply and production of grain. So we do enjoy a solid basis for this year's grain harvest. And I think it's fair to say that we are already enjoying a good start for this year's food production, so long as the policy measures are well implemented and everyone works together in unity. We have every confidence and determination to ensure the food security in China. Just now, a journalist asked about the food hoarding. Let me briefly respond to that question. I think I can say the following words. First, the continuous food harvest has ensured a solid basis, and for this year's food production, we have confidence to ensure our own supply, and there's no need to hoard the food or to go and buy the food products in a rush. Okay, let's continue. On the right, on the second row, the third gentleman reporter, please. Thank you. With Xinhua News Agency. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, we can see that the market prices of food products are quite stable. What are the measures adopted by the National Food and Resource Reservation Bureau? So we will have Mr. Wang to take your question. Thank you for your question. For years, we've already established a sound food security system. The system is playing its role. Specifically, it has 4 halves. That is, we have the supporting system, we have the market monitoring system, we have the emergency response plan, and we have the accountability system. Let me talk about them one by one. The first is the support system. We do enjoy an adequate supply of food. And in major cities, as well as vulnerable areas, we have the 10 to 15 days of reserve supply. Also, we have the sound system for food supply and distribution. Let me share with you some data. Up to now, we have more than 44,000 food supply outlets, and for emergency response processing factories, we do have thousands of them, and also for emergency response storage capacity, it is also abundant. Also, we have the 2-tier information monitoring system. Now we have the more than 9,000 information outlets or posts throughout the country. The third half is about the emergency response. We have set up the 4-level response plan and preparedness. And last but not least important, we have the sound accountability system. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, such accountability system has been brought into full function. Okay, let's continue. On the left, on the second row, the lady reporter, please. Thank you. With Economic Daily, a few days ago, FAO said that there might be a food crisis in April and May this year. So I would like to know how many reserved food products are utilized by the central government of China, and is it necessary for the general public to go and buy the food products? We will have DG Qin to take your question. Thank you for your question. Let me first share with you the current stockpiling situation. We have the government stockpiling, the commercial stockpiling, as well as the policy stockpiling. For the government stockpiling, this includes both the central and the local governments. Let me give you an example. For the local stockpiling, this is specifically for the local market supply, and we have the specific monthly requirements. And for such stockpiling, it is of quite a large scale, and this can be auctioned in the market. The commercial stockpiling is conducted by the businesses. Now, there are more than 40,000 such companies in China.
In recent years, the reserve has been kept at a high level, as DG Pan and DG Wei have mentioned. For wheat and rice, our reserve can provide the needs for 1 year consumption. In many cities, the rice and wheat commodity can supply the market for 30 days and above. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, the Food Authority has organized the allocation of resources and ensured the market needs. We have never touched the central reserve of grain, and most places haven't even touched the local reserve. Some general public have been asking whether it's necessary to corner some rice as DG Pan, DG Wei have mentioned, I also agree there is no need to corner or hoard rice. If you put it too long, there might be some moth, and we'd better consume rice when it is fresh. So just buy as you need. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the fourth row on the left side. Thank you. With the Hong Kong China review, during the COVID-19 response, what has been the progress in the production of rice and edible oil by such companies? I'd like to ask DG Wang Hong to take the question. Thank you for your question. We know the COVID-19 broke out during the Spring Festival. Many grain and edible oil companies were on their Spring Festival break. However, the national market functioned orderly even when we were at the most crucial timing in the fight. The flour, grain, and edible oil supply in supermarkets across the country have been stable. It has something to do with our years of good harvests and stable supply. Edible oil and grain food processors have resumed their business quickly, and this has also contributed to the stable market during the COVID-19 response. We've also organized the allocation and input into the market policy. Grain, provincial food authorities have organized the resumption of food businesses, and which have played a positive role in COVID-19 response. They have resumed the business in a timely manner. As of now, 5,300 plus food processors have seen a resumption rate of 86.3%. The wheat and rice processing capacity among these resumed business stood at 960,000 tons per day. So if per capita consumption is 1 jin or half a kilo, today just one of just these businesses can satisfy the per day needs of the entire Chinese population. So with this sound capacity of production and processing, we can ensure sufficient need of food. Journalist from the fifth row on the left side, please. Thank you. With Phoenix TV, we've noticed that the central government has proposed the restoration of producing 2 seasonal rice. Is it because deficiency in food safety? And also we've learned that the plantation of early or summer rice is not profitable. So why? Thank you for your question. It is a very professional question. To encourage farmers' plantation of the 2 seasonal rice, Ministry of Agriculture collaborated with NDRC and adopted an array of supportive measures which have been rarely seen for previous years. First, we increased the price on 28th of February. We announced the lowest purchase price for per jin or per half kilo. We've increased by 0.01 yuan. Despite of a very small increase, it was increase rarely seen in previous years. Second, we've consolidated supportive funding, the funding for rotation crops and other funds, a total of 37 billion RMB to support the early season rice. Third, apart from the central funding, local finance have also enhanced their support. Take Jiangxi province, for example. 25% of the incentives that go to the major producing counties have been rechanneled to the funding support to summer rice for the raising of seedlings. With this governmental support, and all kinds of favorable policies, there has been a great momentum of the early seasonal rice, which can stop the 7 consecutive years of decrease in early seasonal rice production. As of yesterday, 80% of the seedling tasks have been completed. The progress has been much faster than that of previous years. Compared with previous years, there were 3 other features related to the early seasonal rice. First, there has been expansion of quality seasonal rice. Localities have been promoted premium varieties. Second, there has been an expansion of collective seedling. We know that if we write the first half of the article well, it is very promising to be a good article. The same is true for the early seasonal rice nurturing. Local funding goes mainly to collective seedling. This year, the collective seedling was 1.13 million mu, 20% higher than that of the previous years. The third feature was the expansion of scale plantation. This year, the increased acreage came from the rural cooperatives and household farms, or these new entities, which has constituted a scale of economy because the planters did not plant for their own sake. They contribute to the commodity's overall market supply. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the 5th row on the right side. From CGTN. We know China is a major importer of soybeans impacted by COVID-19. The importation of soybean was under pressure. Will this put further impact on the soybean oil? I'd like to ask DG Wei Baigang to take the question. That is a hot issue that is lively discussed. Soybean is one of the major imported grain products to produce oil. Last year, we imported 88 million tons of soybean. Brazil, Argentina, U.S. have an importation of 65%, 60%, and 10% respectively. In the first 2 months, we saw an increase of soybean by 42% recently with the spreading of COVID-19. Many are concerned that the importation of soybean from Brazil and Argentina will be put under negative impact. There were also online reports saying that in ports of Brazil, people are putting up strikes, which may impact the importation of soybean to China. In March, soybean importation from Brazil to China has been on the increase. We are still in an orderly importation of soybean from Brazil. Now it is the harvest season in Brazil. This year, the total production will be 120 million tons. Export will also increase. The soybean plantation in Brazil was mainly exported to China. After the soybean is harvested, they need to export it timely. That's why from the farmers to government, active measures have been adopted to ensure smooth exportation. There has been some rumored scheduled strike at the port, but it is not in reality. The U.S. soybean is in the plantation season. The planned plantation acreage will increase. The U.S.-China economic deal has realized the first phase of deal ceiling. So there might be an increase of importation of soybean from U.S. as well.
Yeah. Now the pandemic is spreading across the world, and in particular in U.S. and Brazil. So we are very following closely the potential impact on the export and import of soybean to China. So we have try to minimize the negative impact by streamlining the whole procedure and improve the efficiency. Globally, it is necessary to have the soybean renovation plan and ensure the adequate supply in the market. Okay, let's continue. On the right, on the first row, the third lady reporter, please. Thank you. With the NTV, in recent years, there have been structural reform going on in the agricultural sector. How about the food structure in China, and what is the plan for this year's restructuring? We will have DG Pan to take your question. The process of food production is actually a process of constant restructuring and optimization of the structure. In recent years, in the light of our local conditions and complying with the overall requirement of adequate food security, we have constantly optimizing the food structure to provide sufficient and adequate food supply to the Chinese people. In terms of the structure, we try to ensure the supply of the grains, including the paddy rice and wheat. Now we have 1.4 billion population. That means for every 2 Chinese people, they enjoy 1 mu of such grain food, and the per capita consumption is 150 kilograms. So with the simple calculation, you can see that the supply is adequate. In terms of the varieties, just as DG Wei has mentioned, we have the major varieties such as wheat. For wheat, we have adequate supply and demand, and for the paddy rice, we have oversupply. For corn, a few years ago, we have the importation. Now it is stabilized. For soybean, we do have a fairly large gap in terms of supply and demand. Recent years witness the increase in the gap, and last year we have increased the production to a fairly high level compared with the 2005 level. However, we still need to import some corn to satisfy the domestic demand. For this year's plan, the overall principle is to stabilize. That is to stabilize the acreage of grain production. And also we are to optimize the internal structure of food supply. For paddy rice and wheat, just now I mentioned that the grain production acreage are 800 million mu, and we will make sure that this acreage is guaranteed. And also we are to optimize the structure of the varieties and provide high quality paddy rice and wheat as well as soybean to satisfy the diversified needs in the market. In the restructuring, there's also one thing that people might be quite interested or concerned about. That is the rotation of the land. For this year, we will continue such rotation, and for this year, we are to expand the rotation and reduce the so we do have the live fallow time. The live fallow time will be reduced, while the local geographical conditions will be considered to ensure the land fertility is recovered before the next round of plowing. Okay, I'll stop here. Let's continue. On the right, the fourth row, the lady reporter. Thank you. With National Business Daily. Previously, there was arduous task about pandemic response. However, the overall food supply is quite stable. Now the pandemic is spreading across the world. What are the measures adopted to ensure the adequate supply in the coming weeks? We will have DG Qin to take your question. Okay, since the outbreak of the COVID-19, the market supply is quite stable. For the next step, we will focus on the following 4 measures. The first is to ensure the adequate supply and the stable price in the market. The specific policy measures will be implemented. And second, we will strengthen the early warning and monitoring system. The daily reporting will be continued to make response timely. And thirdly, to create synergy. Not long ago, we have established this synergy mechanism covering hundreds of enterprises and agencies, in particular in Hubei. So we will have such a synergy between the central and the local governments, the public and the private sectors, and etc. Fourthly, we will ensure the adequate supply. In the light of the market needs, we will have the policy auction of the reserves, of the food reserves. For instance, last week, we have arranged such auction. We will closely follow the market developments, and if it's necessary, we will increase the auction scale and ensure the market supply. Okay, on the right, on the fourth row, the first lady reporter, please. Thank you. With the Yangtze River Daily, I'm based in Beijing. Previously, there were some complaints about the insufficient supply of the raw materials for animal feeds. I'd like to know if this problem has been addressed. Another question is, will there be further plans to provide more such raw materials for animal feeds production? We will have DG Qin to take the question. Thank you for your concern about this issue. Yes, in early March, there were some similar reports on this issue, and after investigation, we found that it was caused by the limited transportation rather than the inadequate supply. So we quickly arranged the auction of the corn for animal feeds production. This has satisfied the needs, and the transaction rate achieved 94%. Now, as the situation of pandemic control is improving domestically, the transportation is returning to normal. And usually the peak season is between October to April. And we do find that for some farmers, they still have some grain to be marketed.
After the high season of purchase is over, we will organize the policy corn to be input into the market to satisfy the market needs. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the second row on the right side, please. Thank you. With the Science and Technology Daily, as COVID-19 is spreading across the world, some countries have food trade restrictions. Some say the global food price increase may be contagious to China. what is your comment? I'd like to ask DG Wei Baigang to take the question. Thank you for your concern in the knock-on effect of a global food price increase. Impacted by COVID-19 recently, there has been some increase of food price. Food security has again become a lively discussed issue in the world, but we should be calm and objective in analyzing the issue. Global food supply is sufficient. In 2019 to 2020, global food supply was 3.4 billion tons plus. The total need was 2.7 million tons plus, exclusive of soybean. The term and inventory was 800 million. The consumption to end of term reserve was 30%. The recent increase of global food price was panic shopping impacted by the COVID-19. So that was panic shopping. Previously, I've commented the net grain import was 1,600 tons plus, only 2% of China's national consumption of grain. That was quite a small percentage. The global food price increase has very limited impact on domestic food price changes. Since March, the retail price of rice was 6.6 per kilo and 3.95 RMB per kilo for flour. The market price was stable. We also have sufficient inventory of wheat and grain. As other directors have mentioned, wheat, rice, inventory amounts to 1 year's consumption. Or in other words, even if we don't have production, we can still consume 1 year's inventory. If there is international market fluctuations, we are completely capable to counter the external impacts. That's my opinion. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the third row on the left side, please. Thank you. China Rural Magazine, New Media. There has been many hoarding and cornering of rice. The old topic of food safety was again put forward on the table. What are the measures adopted by Ministry of Agriculture to stabilize food supply? I'd like to ask DG Wei Baigang to take the question. Thank you for your concern in our food production. As other colleagues have mentioned, food is the priority of China. For a nation of 1.4 billion population, food safety is the top priority. And we need to improve the comprehensive production capacity of food production. That's why Ministry of Agriculture attaches great importance to the production capacity of rice. The paddy rice fields and the good seeds will be given priority too. The 1.8 billion mu of plantation acreage must be maintained, including 900 million mu for the production of wheat and corn, and 100 million mu for the plantation of soybean. So this 1.8 billion mu of plantation acreage is the top priority. During the seasons of drought and the flood, we can ensure production. And this year, 800 million mu among these 1.8 billion will be the priority of among the priorities. We'll also focus on some science and research to improve the variety and production to satisfy the needs of the general public of consume quality grain. We focus on the production of high quality drought and flood resistant grain. Third priority is the machine use in agriculture plantation. When we were preparing for today's press conference, we were asked a question that we see fewer and fewer farmers in rural areas. Why are we still very good harvests every year? It is because of the machineries that are used. The machine-used harvest of corn, where we have some bottleneck, and we are working on it. Based on the difficult and complex and diversified terrain in China, we are conducting some science and research projects on machineries that can be used in difficult terrains. And fourth, we focus on the leverage of science and technology. Over the years, the good harvest was to the credit of technological application. 59.2% of the green increase came from technological application. This year, we want to build 100 demo places of application of science and technology to promote the integration of sound agricultural processing technology application. Thank you. In the interest of time, we can take two last questions. Journalist from the third row on the left side, please. Noticed that farmers told us they had difficult access to markets. Why was that? What are the measures to alleviate the situation? How is the progress? Will COVID-19 impact the procurement price and the procurement process? Can farmers' yields be guaranteed? Economic returns of the farmers guaranteed? I'd like to ask DG Qin Yuying to answer the question. Thank you for your question. In previous days impacted by some transportation impediments, farmers may find it difficult to access market. In the later half of February, Ministry of Transportation and the Ministry of Agriculture carried out certain measures. First, we extended the policy procurement deadline till the end of February. We increased the outlets to collect the grain from farmers. We've also guided localities to have a market-oriented procurement to better serve the farmers, provided technical guidance to farmers. The high season for the collection of late season rice have been completed, and the harvest for corn is approaching the end with the total collection of 89 million. Only 10% of their harvest are still at hand. So we believe the harvest from last autumn among farmers will find a good sale. For the next step, we've made other preparations. According to response from localities, the policy inventory of wheat is at a historical high. The summer wheat collection is under certain pressure. We would urge localities to improve accountability. The National Reserve Company will be accountable for collecting policy collection. We will adopt a combination of measures to improve the reserve outlets so as to ensure the smooth running of summer wheat collection from farmers. Thank you. Last question. Journalist from the third row on the right side. Thank you. With Farmers Daily, As the COVID-19 response domestically is towards the positive, resumption of business has been picking up speed. What has been the progress in the resumption of agricultural business, and what should be the questions to be noticed?
DG Pan, indeed, spring holds the key to the success of the year, just as you have mentioned, like other sectors affected by the pandemic. Agricultural production, in particular, the spring plowing is affected. However, under the strong leadership of the State Council and the central government, Ministry of Agriculture has made every effort to ensure the recovery of agricultural production. We have tried to address the outstanding problems and minimize the negative impact caused by the pandemic on spring plowing. According to our survey, at the moment, the spring plowing has been back to the normal order. First, in terms of the field management for the summer grain production areas, they are soundly promoting the 100-day hard work to ensure the harvest. So farmers and stakeholders are encouraged to conduct sound field management measures. And also, as the land condition is quite good, we can see that the situation is better than previous years. According to experts' analysis, without extreme weather conditions, we can be quite confident to have the summer harvest. In terms of spring plowing, the localities have seized the opportunity brought forward by the fast rising temperature and the adequate rainfall. They have made early preparation and early start. They have missed no time to conduct the spring plowing. By the end of yesterday, the spring plowing has accomplished 100 million mu. The schedule is 50% accomplished, much higher than that of last year. Today is the clear and bright day. In agricultural terms, this is the time for plowing, and it is indeed the high time for spring plowing. You will find the increased speed in spring plowing. In terms of the agricultural supply, the material supply, we can see that the work resumption rate is higher than that of previous year. For the opening of the agricultural material stores, we can see that they are also better than last year. So we can say that the supply is adequate, the transportation is smooth, and the overall price is stable. However, there are also some problems. We understand that some of the agricultural materials have not been in place, caused by several reasons. For example, many farmers have the confidence that they can get easy access to the agricultural materials. So they do not, they want to have the zero inventory for agricultural materials. And the second is there is some bottlenecks for the transportation of the agricultural materials or means of production. So we have set up a coordination mechanism to deal with these bottlenecks. So we have the hotlines and also information platforms to address these problems. We want to ensure the smooth conduct of spring plowing and the adequate supply of the agricultural means of production. Thank you. So for today's press conference, the speakers have taken questions about food supply and food safety or food security. Indeed, we feel quite assured and confident in the adequate supply of food. For tomorrow, we will invite government agencies like NMPA, Ministry of Commerce, to take questions about the adequate supply of the pandemic control materials. We welcome your questions, and that's all for today's press conference. Thank you.